Hello and welcome to this third video in this series on how you're getting started with C#. In this video we will cover the operators. There's many different types of operators and I will walk you through almost every operators that exist, so you really get familiar with operators because they are very important in programming in general. And when you have seen this video, you can also go to my blog to read about operators instead. There's a lot of content here about every different operators that exist. I will put a link in the description. And else let's just jump to Visual Studio to get started. So now that we're inside Visual Studio, I wrote some headlines for some of the operator types that exist, and I will walk you through every one of them. But let's start with arithmetic operators. It might sound scary with the arithmetic word, but it's actually the most simple one, because what it is that it is plus icon, the minus, the multiplication, and the division. And at last we also have what we call modulus, which is just this percentage sign. So let's walk through how these works. So first of all, I want to make an integer, which is called a, and let's set this to, let's say 500. And then let's go and create another variable. And if you just click Ctrl D, you will copy the line. And then I will call this b instead. And let's set this to 1000. So now that we have two variables we can play around with, let's go and use our arithmetic operators. So let's create a new variable and we call it C. We just hit tab because it suggests that we could make a new integer called C. And then let's go and use our first operator, which is the plus sign. So we can say A plus B, and this one should give 1500. So really no magic in that. But let's go and create a new one called D. And we also want to say that this is A, but we want to say minus B. And because we have 500 here, we minus it with 1000. So that would give us minus 500. So let's call this for E. And we can say A multiplied with B. And in our case, it should give 500,000 like this. Then let's go and use our division operator. So we say int and we call this F. And let's say A divided by B, and this time we should get 0.5. And I think everyone understands these operators so far. If you just have a little understanding of how math works, then this should not be that complicated. But now for the last one, where we use our modulus operator. So we say int, and it should be a G, and now it actually already know what we want to type. But actually in this case, I want to say that B modulus with A, because that would make more sense, because B is higher than A, and that would make this to be 0. And the way that modulus works is that we have a mass. Let's say that we have a mass of 1000, so this is 1000, and then we want to take these 500 from the A, and then the code will look how many times can 500 be inside 1000, and that's of course 2. And then when we say modulus, then we actually mean what are the rest of the value that would be. And in our case, the 500 plus 500 would be 1000, and we would have no rest, so that would be 0. But I'll try to give you another example. If we have, let's say, integer and say this one should be x, and we take 500 again, and then we copy and paste the line and say that we have a y. And again, if we say that x and then modulus y, and let's set this to be a integer of set, then if you're fast at math, you can see that this would again be 0. So this set would be a 0, because we can have 500 inside 500 one time, and there will be no rest or leftovers, or what you will call it. But now let's say that x would be 510 instead. Then we have 510 here, and we have 500 here, and then we will get rid of the 500 each because they can be divided by each other, and then we are left with the last 10. So this would give a result of 10. And again, let's say that we make this 1010 instead, then it will still be 10, because you can say 500 and you can either multiply or divide it how you like. But if you say 2 multiplied by 500, then it still fit inside this sum, and then you will actually just remove it. So you only have the 10 left. But let's go and display this in the console. I'll just write a bunch of console write lines. So I just wrote these console write lines so we can display it in the console. And if we open the console, we can now see that our results should match what we expect. So we get 1,500, we get -500, we get 500,000, and we actually get a 0 here, even though we want 0.5. Because it just round up, or actually round down the number in this case, because we said that it should be a whole number, a integer. But then again we have the next 0, and at last we have our 10. So I think that should cover it for arithmetic operators. So now let's scroll down to our assignment operators. So what assignment operators is that it's our equal sign, and we also have a plus equal, we have a minus equal, a multiplication equal, and a division equal, and a modulus equal. So you already know a little bit about assignment operators, because when we say int and say a, then we use an assignment operator to say that it should be like 10. And now you can see we cannot use this because we already declared a variable called a up here. So I'll just comment all this out. If you want to comment a lot of code in Visual Studio, you can mark it as I did, and hit Control K and Control C. And if you want to uncomment it, you can hit Control K and Control U. So that's just a little trick to comment out a lot of text. But as we could see, we already have an assignment operator here, which is the equal sign. So now that we have a variable called a, we can actually say a, and instead of say equal to a plus, let's say 10 more, so a would be 20 now, because we have a, which is 10, and then we add 10 to it. Then instead we can go and use the plus equal operator. This would be the exact same we're going to do. So now it will actually just add 10 to this variable. And then let's go and copy and paste this a couple of times, because we can also say minus, multiply, and divide it. And once again we can say modulus. And the concept of these operators should not be that difficult to understand, because what we do at the minus is just say, let's say 5. So we have 10 at first, and then we say minus equal 5. So it will subtract 5 from the a value, and then we would actually have an a value that is 5 if we ignore this, because it already added 10 to the value. And again, you will just do the same with the multiplication. So we have the a is equal to 10, and then we multiply it by 10. So this would be 100. But now let's comment all this out again, so we can go to the comparison operators. And what the comparison operators is that it is like operators that we use to see if something is false or if it's true. So as it indicates in the word, we're going to compare some values to see if it's true or if it's false. And for that, we're going to use a double equal sign, or a not equal sign, a greater than sign, a less than, and then we also have this greater than and equal to, and we have the less than or equal to. So let's go again and copy our variable called a, and let's also create a variable called b, which should be 20. And when we use the comparison operators, we return a bool. So we want a variable that is a bool to hold the value, and let's just call this for result. And as you can see, it suggests that we just call it false, but that's actually the value that we want to generate by using the comparison operators. So let's take the first one and say a, is that equal to b? And of course this will turn out to be false, because a is 10 and b is 20, so they're not the same. And let's go and copy and paste this line, and don't declare it again, but just reusing the result variable. And then we could go and use the other comparison operator, which is not equal to, and this would actually be true, because a is 10, so that is not equal to 20, so that would return true. And again, let's go and copy and paste this. Then we have the greater than sign, and this would turn out to be false, because a is not greater than b, so this will be false. And let's go and duplicate the line again, Control D, and this time we want to say that a is less than, and in this case a is less than b, so we set this to true. And finally we have the greater than or equal to, so we will just say greater than and equal to, and this will again be false because A is not greater than or equal to B, so this will be false. Where if we imagine that A was 20 instead, then it would actually be equal to B, so this would be true. Where if we only use the greater than sign, then if A was 20, then this would be false also, just like it is now. Because if they both were 20, then it would not be greater than. And finally, let's go and duplicate this line again and say, is A less or equal to B? And it is, so this will be true. And that's actually all the comparison operators that we have. So let's go and comment out all this code and let's go to logical operators. So the logical operators we can use are the AND, the OR, and the NOT. So let's say that we now have two variables. I just copy and pasted this because I think you have the logic now and how you type a variable. And in this case we have two bools, which is called A and B, and the first one is true and the second one is false. And then let's go and take an example on how to use the AND operator. So what this code is doing is that we're going to save the variable inside a new bool called C, and then it will check if A is true and if B is true. And if they're both true, then it will return true, else it will return false. And in this example, this is true and this is false, so it would also return false because they're not true, both of them. Next we have the OR operator. So in this case, A or B should be true to return true, and in this case A is true, so it will return true. When you use a OR operator, then just one of the statements have to be true, so this will return true. And the final logical operator that we have are the NOT symbol or the NOT operator. So what this do is that it says that A is true, but it is not true, so therefore it must be false. So E would be false in this example, so we type false. And you can actually see the NOT operator as an operator that would do the opposite of what its original value was. So when you have true, you can just set the NOT operator in front and it will make the value the opposite value of what you put it in front of. So let's say that we put some parentheses around this and we say NOT in front. Then we knew from before that this statement was false, but now when we set NOT in front, it would actually be true. So it doesn't matter how long your statement is, we could have a bunch of code in here and that would just return true or false. And in the end, if we put this in front of it all, it will just return the opposite result. But I think that was it for logical operators. So let's go and comment this out and go to conditional operators. And the way conditional operators looks like is a question mark and a colon, and what we will call this is a ternary operator. And the way we will use it is not by putting it side by side, but actually have a condition. So let's say that this should be something that should turn out to be either false or true. Then we can make this question mark and say what the true value should be, and then the colon, and what the false value should be. So this is very much like a if statement that I will cover later in this course, but this is just if you want the if statement to be in a single line instead of multiple lines. So let me give you an example on how this works. So we have two variables, just an int with a value of a, that is 10, and a b int that is 20. And now let's say that we want a value. We either want the a value if this statement is true, or the b value if this statement is false. And the statement is here where we say that if a is greater than b, and in this case that is false because 10 is not greater than 20, then it will return the false value and put this value into our new C int. And that's really all there is to conditional operators. So I'll just comment this out and then finally show you that we also have other operators. I will not walk through them in this video, but I'll just show you. So as you can see, we have also a size of operator that returns the size of a data type in bytes. We have a type of operator. We have this address operator. We have a dereference operator, and then we have a member access operator. So there is still plenty to operators to learn, but I will not walk through these because they're not used that much. They are used but all the other operators that we have been taking a look at are usually used a lot more. But I think that was all for this video. Please like the video if you liked it, and subscribe to my channel, and else I'll just see you in the next video. Bye.